you to join me in saying I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Christy, I'd ask if you'd call the roll, please.
Dave Burris.
Here.
Ray Eckenby.
Here.
Bill Lukens.
Here.
Bob Nelson.
Here.
Ron Richards.
Here.
Allison Ritterbusch. Here. Craig Romey.
Present.
Caitlin Turner. Here. Thank you.
Okay, we do have a quorum. The next item is to adopt the agenda. I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Are there any comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved, and again, I remind all council members that if you do have a conflict of interest on any item that we're voting on tonight, I would ask you to advise the entire council prior to the vote. You have in your packages the minutes from the July 1st council meeting. I'd ask for a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the July 1st council meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the July 1st council meeting minutes. Are there any questions, comments, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. We move on to claims. You have in your packages bills in between for $190,059.15. I'd ask for a motion to approve those bills in between.
Make a motion to approve bills in between for $190,059.15.
And second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the bills in between. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The bills in between are approved. We do have a correction to what's listed for the current claims. The current claims should be $54,912.58. If you'll look on page 7 of your current claims, we had a discovery that there was a missing receipt from Ace Hardware for $5. That bottom line on page 7 should read $136.44 as opposed to $131.44. So I would accept a motion to approve the current claims for $54,912.58.
I'll make a motion to approve the current claims with an additional amendment on page 2. Under Dollar General, second item, coffee and phone cups. I recommend not paying that one. I don't think it's up to the community to buy coffee for employees or public. So my recommendation is to also not approve that one. That would make the new amount $54,906.63. I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the current claims with an additional amendment, deleting the Dollar General charges on page 2. Are there any other questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the amended current claims signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. You also have in your package Wells Fargo credit card charges for $5,793.75. I would ask for a motion to approve those credit card charges.
Make a motion to approve Wells Fargo credit card for $5,793.75.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve those credit card charges. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we do have those credit card charges approved. Next on our agenda is communications from the public, and I believe that we do have a presentation from the Elks Club, Dusty Ballou and Gerald Culligan. If you come forward, please.
Hello, I'm Dusty Ballou, and from the Hot Springs Elks Club, I'm the exalted ruler. And on behalf of the Benevolent Protective Order of the Elks, we would like to present the City of Hot Springs a check for $2,600. Hopefully to be used for the basketball backboards and basketball nets by the public park. So I'm our tennis player, Jerry Culligan, that he's probably used to help rebuilding the backboard and the nets and everything. So we just both decided to give some money to do that for $2,600.
Well, Dusty, first of all, we will accept that donation. We will accept it with a great deal of appreciation, not only for the significant amount that you're giving for a very worthy cause. You know, we did have a Hot Springs basketball team go to the state tournament this year, so we got to keep those kids shooting baskets during the summer. But we also want to thank you for the things that the Elks Club does throughout the year for our community. We appreciate you being a part of Hot Springs and all that you do, and we will gladly accept that check. I've asked Miss D to go ahead and log that in.
The purchases have already been made. So the money's already been spent. We appreciate your donation. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. And one other thing, we did make the Hot Springs Elks Lodge, 1751, made the #1 Elks Lodge in the state of South Dakota this year also.
Oh, wow.
Everything that we've done.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Dusty.
Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is executive session. I would ask for a motion to go into executive session for personnel and legal.
Make a motion, we go into executive session under South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-2 for personnel and 3 legal.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to go into executive session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We will go into executive session. The time is 7:08. Okay, we will reconvene the council meeting at 7:48. Next item on the agenda is personnel. I will accept the motion to approve personnel actions A through D.
I make a motion to accept personnel actions A through D.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to accept these personnel actions. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We will now have the committee reports, and before we do, I'd like to announce some committee assignments. For administrative and finance, Bob, if you'll continue on, I would ask that Caitlin to be an assistant chair with her experience with the county assessor's office. We've got some inside information there that we will need to take advantage of. Bill will remain on the Airport Advisory Committee. Custer Fall River Waste Management District Ron, continue with that. Downtown Historic Preservation Commission, Craig, I'd ask you to take that, ahead of that. Evans Plunge Advisory Committee, Allison, if you'd be willing to continue with that, I'd sure appreciate it. Parks, Recreation, Beautification, and Cultural Development, Dave, would you be willing to take that on? Planning and Zoning Commission, Allison. And Public Safety, Bill. Appreciate the work there. Public Works, Bob and Ray. This is one of our busiest committees. We're willing to continue on, Ray. And Southern Hills Economic Development, Caitlin has indicated an interest in that, and asked Caitlin if you'd be able to do that. I'll continue on with Southern Hills Golf Course Advisory Committee. That gives me an excuse to check that course out quite often. Volunteer Fire Department, Ron. And we will do away with the report from on the comprehensive plan coordination until we get a new city administrator hired and get them up to speed on that. With those said, let's go ahead with committee reports, administrative and finance.
Welcome to Caitlin. Obviously, you can't get your promoted to chair with an offer too. But the next admin and finance meeting will be August 5th, City Hall.
And if you all could really speak up with the stereo that the static we're having from the rain, it's a little hard to hear. Let's make sure everyone has an opportunity to hear. Okay, Airport Advisory Committee, Bill.
The next Airport Advisory Committee is Thursday, July 25th at 8 a.m. at the airport. However, I do have a couple of items regarding the airport that I believe is important that the council be aware of. Ed Jensen, the airport director, has been working with Steve Alexander at the city shop to determine if the old Charger, an old police car, could be repaired and used for a courtesy vehicle at the airport. It's been determined that between the overheating problems and the starting issues that the cost of repair for that Charger would exceed the $500 that it would cost to purchase the existing vehicle used by HSR as a courtesy car. As we discussed in the past, if we could not repair an existing city vehicle for less than the HSR would sell their vehicle, that we would go ahead and pursue the purchase of the HSR vehicle. And to that end, you will find a new business item B requesting a motion to purchase the HSR vehicle with future contingency fund resolution. And secondly, for quite some time, at least the past several months, we've been having issues with the PAPI landing lights at the airport. The PAPI lights are a critical safety feature that allow pilots to maintain a safe glide path when approaching the runway for landing, and this is especially critical for visiting pilots. This is an old system, and our repair options have been exhausted. And as a result, in a replacement charge to actually repair them for $4,305.63, which were included in the current claims that were approved earlier. As this was not a budgeted expense, it will have a severe impact on the airport budget. But so far, we will be able to cover this by utilizing existing equipment repair budget. A major portion of that, at least $3,500 of it, is coming from the deferred replacement of 2 tractor tires that Ed had in the budget, and the rest will be from coming out of the equipment repair budget. And Ed will continue to work hard the rest of the year to keep expenditures down and maintain his 2019 budget. So again, nothing that came out of the Airport Advisory Committee, but a couple of real critical airport issues that we want to get in. be aware of.
Thank you, Bill. Custer Fall River Waste Management District, Ron.
Custer Fall River Waste Management met 11 July here at the Mueller City Center at 7 p.m. Meeting was called to order, introduced one new board member from Custer. Financial report, treasury report, said there was a 1.12% decrease in operating expenses and a 15.93% increase in fee collections. Doing quite well there. The tire shredding is completed. There were 370 tons of tires were shredded at a cost of $47,000. There was a grant received from DNR for $52,000. They're working on the grant to pay up to 50% for the new compactor, which has an estimated delivery of October 2019. Discussion on starting new cell planning. Current estimate of life of the current cell is 4 to 6 years. Next meeting is to be determined.
Okay, thanks. We'll get the Historic Preservation Commission report next meeting. Evans Plunge Advisory Committee, Allison.
Next meeting is September 12th at noon at Evans Plunge. We don't have meetings during the summer, so they can work with all their fun kids coming in swimming.
And puppy plunges, right?
What's that?
And
Yeah,
puppy
and puppy plunges, yes, exactly.
Parks, Recreation, and Beautification, Cultural Development, we'll wait until the next meeting for a report. Planning and Zoning Commission, Allison.
Planning and zoning meetings coming up this Wednesday, July 17th, 7 p.m. City Hall.
Public Safety, Bill.
Public Safety met today at 1 o'clock at City Hall. Present were Mayor Cotty, myself, Bob Nelson. Craig was there for the last little bit of the meeting. Also present were Chief Mike Close, Captain Bill Wayman, and Animal Control Officer John Wisher. There were no updates on any of the old business items that are being tracked on the follow-up log. Under new business, a member of the public had posted a question and comments on Facebook regarding their perceived need for traffic control signage on 4th and Jennings. The police department and the chair of the Public Safety Committee investigated the request independently. The findings of those investigations were discussed, and it was agreed that traffic control signs were appropriate for the intersection. Mayor Cotty took an action to write a work order to the street department to install stop signs on the Jennings Avenue sides of the intersection, and Captain Wayman took an action to communicate with the members of the public that raised the concern, and the matter is considered closed. Animal Control Officer John Wishart was present at the request of the committee to discuss possible ways to reduce the costs associated with feline boarding and euthanizing. Based on our discussions, John is conforming to the ordinance and only setting traps when he receives complaints from the public, and he'll continue to search for ways to control these costs. A couple of months ago, we spent $1,800 boarding and euthanizing feral cats. We budget about $300 a month. We're continuing to look at ways that we can manage that, and it is a challenge. I'll leave it at that. Chief Close provided a summary of departmental activities for the past month. Included in that, as you might expect, there were a number of fireworks complaints. Also, we discussed some positive impacts of late-night officer interactions with the public. Also, the utilization of our reserve officers during the recent celebrations and public events at Centennial Park. He also provided an update on some previously identified issues that are being worked in the 4th and 5th Street areas. He was also asked to provide an update regarding the Reserve Officer Program. Currently, we have 5 Reserve Officers that are fully staffed at this time. As Chief Close prepares his 2020 budget, he will be reviewing the needs and and seeing if we need to expand that reserve officer program. That is not a free program, as there is equipment and training needs that go along with that. Members of the public safety, along with Sheriff Evans, will be meeting with the Zurcher Group this Thursday, July 18th at 11 a.m. at City Hall to discuss potential impacts and potential next steps in the event that Custer County switches to a new dispatch system, which may impact the ability of Custer County and Fall River County to use each other as a backup dispatch center. Also, members of public safety will be participating in the second pre-disaster mitigation plan review meeting with Fall River County Emergency Management. This is part of the 5-year plan review that we've committed to participate in. And after this morning's power outage, that certainly highlighted some of the needs and some of the already identified risks that our community might be exposed to. Our next meeting is going to be Wednesday, August 21st at 1 p.m. Again, we're changing the time of the meeting, and we're also going to change the venue to the library conference room. And I would invite all of the council members, if you would like to attend at least the first portion of this meeting. We're going to be going over the resource tracking tool that we came up with after the vineyard fire last year, and how we might set up and use that conference room as a emergency coordination center for city resources. And again, if you would like to attend, we'd be more than happy to have you, but please let Misty know so she can put out a notice of quorum.
What was the date again?
It is Wednesday, August 21st, 1 p.m.
Thank you.
And our meeting adjourned at 3 p.m.
Thank you, Bill. Public Works, Bob and Ray.
Public Works met on July 9th at City Hall. Mayor Connie, Ray, Craig, Tracy, Scott, Kurt Segrist with the city crews, myself were present. A number of old business items. We talked about it before, but the old brush piles at the landfill have been shredded. City crews will begin working into their schedule, relocating the shredded piles to other areas within the landfill. The committee also talked about the importance of the city developing a plan to dispose of the accumulated branches and trees each year, instead of waiting for multiple years to manage the waste. It's well known the disposal area is used by non-city residents and contractors. So the city staff has placed a sign at the entrance to the disposal area that the area is intended for city residents only. Contractors and non-city residents need to dispose of their waste at other locations outside the city. 805 South 11th Street, some of you folks also know that as Catholic Avenue. We're still in discussions to find a solution for access to for multiple private properties via Catholic Avenue and South 11th Street. We have a property on South 6th Street that has a number of problems that have been identified with that. They've currently got a roofing permit to get that taken care of. Scott has notified them of the other issues that also need to be resolved. We finally heard back from Prairie Hills Transit. They've contacted the city about what steps they need to take to request funding for their year-to-year operations, as well as matching funds for the bus barn they plan to build in Hot Springs. Misty provided them with the information about how to submit the requests, and if the information is provided by Prairie Hills Transit, the request will be included in the 2020 budget discussions. The 26th Street Water Project, Tracy's putting together a list of the final costs for that project for the Public Works Committee to review, so we can make a recommendation to the full council about how to pay for the increased cost of that project. Asphalt repairs, the plans for this year's street repair money is to repair the 2 blocks of North River Street between Jennings Avenue and Albany Avenue. Because this 2-block section of road will be needed for additional off-street or off-Main Street parking. Once the 385 road reconstruction project begins. This section of road needs a new mat, not just spot repair work. There's some drainage issues out of the golf course. There are a number of locations along the newly paved roads of the golf course that need additional drainage control. The recent heavy rains have caused washing out of the gravel along the sides of the roads. In some cases, has deposited that gravel on private property. And in other locations, the water erosion is beginning to undercut the highway. Tracy will look at different options to control runoff from the heavy rains. In new business, Mayor Cotty talked with us about increasing code enforcement efforts for violations of overgrown vegetation throughout the city. There are numerous businesses as well as residents that are in violation of the city's current ordinance. Scott has already contacted a number of properties that need cleaned up, and will continue to notify if any properties going forward. In the current list of bills, you may have noticed that there was a bill for mowing in a property that needed to be taken care of. So, as you can see, Scott is starting to use some of the money that's in his particular budget for addressing nuisances. He's going to handle on that. Councilmember Romy asked about the need to begin or to trim overhanging branches again, cleaning out the drainage channel behind Simcoe Plaza, and possibly changing the duration of the east to west stop lane at the intersection of University Avenue and Highway 385. And did I get the east to west correct?
You did.
Okay, I was struggling with that when I was making notes. The Southern Hills Drag Racing Association asked if they could use the north parking lot at Evans Plunge for staging 20 to 25 cars for their annual cruise night on July 26th. The cruise night will begin at 6:30 and is planned to run through the state home for the enjoyment of the residents, and then proceed to Main Street. Committee approved using the parking lot as long as the lot isn't being used by plunge patrons. If the plunge lot isn't available, they will stage the cars along the road leading to Colebrook. Councilmember Romy raised a concern about the rocks that are around the two shelters in Centennial Park. During the Arts and Crafts Festival, a woman tripped and fell while walking over the rocks because of the uneven surface. The committee agreed to remove the rocks from the south, north, and east sides of the shelters and replace that rock with grass and use concrete to level and smooth the west sides of the shelters. Ray, did I miss anything? Do you have anything you want to add?
No, it's fine. You're good.
All right, next Public Works meeting will be July 30th, 3 p.m. at City Hall. Public's welcome.
Okay, thank you. Also have another item that we'll want to add on to the tracking. Did receive some information that we've got an issue with one of the lots is attempted to be purchased by another individual out in the Colebrook area. So we'll be wanting to get that tracked. It was apparently something that was going to be done by the city administrator, but we dropped the ball on it. We need to get that working, so I'll get with you on that, Bob.
Greg, that's the one you identified?
Yeah, Greg brought the information in. Thank you.
Perlman's property.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. I apologize.
Okay, any other comments, Ray? Okay, thank you. Southern Hills Economic Development will dispense with the report tonight. We've got the Southern Hills Golf Course. We did have a meeting this past July 12th. There were no the persons in attendance were myself, the superintendent Jason Happy, Don Olstead, Dave Merrill, Craig Berry, Mary Field, Colette Miller, and Jay Miller. There were no inputs from the committee as far as recommendations as far as next year's budget for the golf course. Jason is working on that. Jason reported that they've been watering very little because of all the rain that we've had this year. They're in the process of spraying for Canadian thistle. The bunkers, several of those have washed out because of the rain. This has been a bad year for ants, so he's had to step up his work on controlling that infestation. The clubhouse report, Kathy mentioned that she was needing volunteers to shuttle during her junior tournament. That junior tournament was held today. It looked like they had people available to shuttle others. Unfortunately, the clubhouse was without power for about an hour, but they were able to get people out on the course prior to the power going out. Items that have been brought up by the committee. One of the complaints that we've had is on busy weekends that we can consolidate singles and twosomes together to allow more tea times to be open. One of the things that was brought up that a map be put up in the clubhouse on vacant lots in Boulder Falls. There's been a lot of questions asked of the clubhouse and members of what lots are vacant and available for building, so there is some interest in that, and we want to continue to keep that, so a map of the information and with that available will be placed in the clubhouse. One of the things that we looked at is getting out an email blast to get people out on the course for promotions, particularly during non-busy times. And one of the things that Jason has struggled with are some of the cart paths have deteriorated, and there's a consideration in turning the cart paths on 12, 16, and 10 into turf so that they'll be smoother and we won't have to worry about them disintegrating and getting rocks into the boulders. So that was the main items that were discussed at the meeting. And move on in our reports to volunteer fire department. Ron?
Well, the fire department likes to rain. They have very little to report here. July 11th, they had an ISO inspection. All their training records and the equipment was inspected. They said it went well. Caitlin Smith, young lady, was voted in for a 1-year probation as a firefighter.
Okay, great. And we really appreciate it, Ron, and if you could pass on to the fire department, and particularly to Chief Coy, the fact that we're fully staffed, and he's done something to get a lot of young people interested in being part of that very valuable service for our community. So tell him thanks. And we'll dispense with the comprehensive plan coordinator report. Our next item on the agenda then is resolution 2019-15. And we are applying for a community access program grant of support for paving some streets. And one of the things that we did last council meeting was approve that, but we left off some streets that we probably should have in our resolution to ensure that for technicality that does not get, that grant does not get dropped. So that's why we're asking for a motion to approve the attached resolution 2019-15. I'd accept a motion to approve that resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2019-15.
I'll second that.
Community Access Program Grant Resolution and Support revised.
And it has been moved and seconded. Is there any question, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Yes, go ahead.
Just for the public's benefit, my understanding of the revision is to add Washington and Jennings avenues in addition to 17th, 19th, and Lincoln.
And all of those streets are contiguous so that they do fit the parameters of the grant.
Thank you.
Good, thank you for bringing that up. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Under new business, item A, we do have a motion and discussion to remove Kim from the Wells Fargo and interstate account signature cards. I'd ask for a motion to do that.
Make a motion to remove Kim Barberry from the Wells Fargo Bank of the West First Interstate account signature cards.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to remove her name from these cards. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And item B under new business is the item that Bill discussed, use of contingency funds to purchase a 99 Dodge Durango from HSR Refueling that has relatively new tires, be used as a courtesy car. And that cost has been set at $500 by HSR. I'd accept a motion to approve that purchase.
I'll make a motion to approve the use of contingency funds to purchase a 1999 Dodge Durango from HSR Fueling to be used as a courtesy car at the Hot Springs Municipal Airport at a cost of $500, funds to be appropriated with future contingency resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to make that purchase. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
You don't get much of a car for $500. How many miles and stuff runs?
It's a 1999 Dodge Durango with 188,000 miles and has new brakes and new tires, and it runs fine.
You know, we're going to be putting people in that thing that's visiting our town. We don't want it to break down or have problems, so.
Yeah, that's why we didn't use one of our existing
Yeah,
surplus.
I know that, but is our mechanic going to look at it before we purchase it?
He's been involved in the discussion, so I imagine he's going to be involved.
Well, I'd like that part of the motion that he looks at that Durango before we buy it.
Are you making that as an amendment?
I would like to do that.
Okay. Could you state your amendment clearly, Craig? I didn't.
That the city mechanic goes and looks at this 1999 Dodge Durango for $500, make sure it's worth $500. That's going to be, you know, dependable for people to use.
Is there a second to that amendment?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve this motion using contingency funds to purchase this 99 Dodge Durango with the provision that our city mechanic does look at the vehicle to determine it is in an operable position prior to purchase. Are there any questions or other comments?
Just would add one thing that might help Craig is this is, if my understanding is correct, this is the existing courtesy car that HSR Fueling has been using at the airport while they own the fueling system. So it's been
reliable.
Yeah.
I mean, just
I understand.
Okay.
I have some questions, Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
The vehicles being used are being provided free of charge, no cost associated with, they're not getting fuel or anything. That's all on the city.
It does say in the agreement that Ed has kind of copied from Sturgis that they pick it up full and they return it full or they pay a fine.
Okay,
So,
good, thank you. And then as far as the use of it, is that limited just to Hot Springs, the airport and Hot Springs and back?
Just the local area, yes.
There's a mile radius
Yeah.
on the agreement, you might want to see it.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that they fill it out before they bring it back. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, ask all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Finance Officer report, Misty.
Thank you. It's fun to hear these committee reports because I'm taking so many notes. I feel like I'm in so many places, but not enough lately. And it's just like feeding kids at home. Every time I turn around, it's payroll. Every time we get it done, it's time to do it again. So there's a lot going on at City Hall, and we're trying to keep up. And I can't wait till we get fully staffed again. Know that the absence of this position is felt every day by everybody that works not only in City Hall but throughout the city. So it's an important position. We're looking forward to filling it. On Friday, July 12th, we sent back the ordinance, legal, and editorial draft review to American Legal Publishing. Thank you to the council council members who came to the special meeting to review that and help get those answers to the questions they had. Now it's about 12 to 15 weeks, I think is what their letter said, as they compile and provide us with a final draft. Budget is right around the corner. We have our budget hearings scheduled for Tuesday, July 30th, starting at 5 p.m. at City Hall, and Thursday, August 1st. We can always schedule more meetings if needed, but we have been working to compile all the department requests into the master list, and I hope to have booklets prepared for the council to review prior to those budget hearings. I hope to have them for you by the end of the day on the 26th. I will be out of the office on the 19th, it's a Friday, and on the 22nd, it's a Monday. I'm going to Texas to celebrate my grandmother's 96th birthday with her. So I hope I get all the budget stuff done in time, but I may be pushing right up against the end of the day on the 26th for those packets for you. And I hope that you understand why, because it's just been so busy. I do also then apologize to the new council members. If you feel like you're not getting all the communication you should, that's my fault. If you have questions, I'm just going to need you to ask them, because we don't have enough staff to take the time to really provide you as much guidance as you probably deserve. There are some of you that have done it before, but some of you have not. So I want to let you know that even though we are busy, we are available. And your questions are important, and please don't hesitate to ask them. I'm sorry if I don't get you everything that you need right away, but I will never be upset with questions that you come to me and ask. We have 2 elected officials going to the workshop on the 17th, so I'm looking forward to some feedback on how well that goes. The Municipal League does do a good job where I fail, in making sure that you have all the tools and resources you need to do your job and make the decisions that are so important for our city running. So thank you for those of you that are attending that, and we get a lot out of it. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Misty. As far as today's report, one of the things I did want to make, give notice to both the public and to the council. We have formed a hiring committee to look at applicants for our city administrator position. There are 5 members on that committee. Bob Nelson and Bill Lukens representing the city council, Gary Shue representing the public, Misty, our city finance officer, and myself. And what we'll be doing is looking at reviewing those who apply and determine whether in our initial review that individual is qualified, marginally qualified, or unqualified. The best qualified ones will be given a questionnaire to fill out. Those questionnaires will be graded, and the top ones that look most promising will be called for an interview. I ask for your patience. This will probably not be done as quickly as we would like, but we are diligently working on that, and there's going to be some things that probably we dropped the ball on, but I thank Misty for the extra effort she and her staff and all the department heads and city staff are taking, rolling up their sleeves and pitching in to work a little bit harder during this time when we're looking for someone to fill that position. I just want to comment, last Thursday we had a STIP for the State Transportation Improvement Program meeting in Rapid City at the Ramcota. We had a very good representation from Hot Springs. One of the things that did come out, the reconstruction of the highway through Hot Springs will be a 2-year program. Last year I was under the impression that they had reduced it to try to get it done in 1 year. but that will take place now in 2021 and 2022. We made an excellent case to improve safety along North River Street by providing additional lane space through a suspended sidewalk. The chambers was well represented, the businesses, and keep Hot Springs beautiful. Beth Spitzer was there to make an eloquent presentation concerning the need for beautification along that route. The comments, again, were respectful, and they're well needed, just as a matter of pointing out the need for safety. Coming back from lunch, I had nearly pull over and stop as a propane truck was coming up the street, going the other way, wheels over the yellow line to avoid vehicle and people that were waiting. Just before I left the office today, I looked out the door window. There was a tourist trying to take a picture of City Hall, wandering with a camera and nearly getting hit by a vehicle. And I think Bill articulated that very well in the safety report that he provided for us, that it is a safety hazard, and it could be somewhat mitigated by wider traffic lanes that suspended sidewalk would give. As was mentioned before, we did have a power outage today. The way it was a little interesting. The way I found out about it was a telephone call from my daughter, and we don't have power. And she thought that it was we were the only house in town. And as we began to check, we found out we had a substantial power outage. I'm a little bit dismayed because we had several facilities in the city that were impacted. Our library was impacted, the golf course, which had a golf tournament going on. We had pump stations that were impacted. Evans Plunge momentarily was impacted, and there was no means of notification. Did call the Fall River Emergency Management and talked with Frank, and we've got a system arranged now so that if there is a power outage in the future, dispatch will notify Frank, and he will notify the city of those buildings that are without power. It's very important that we know that. And of course, as we've mentioned before, that outage again glaringly points to the fact that we do not have a backup generator available for either one of our pump stations. Now, we also have 3 million gallons of water that are stored in those storage tanks, but we're growing, and we're hoping that as a result of the emergency declaration that South Dakota received as a result of flooding, there will be money available to mitigate some of the potential disasters. And Bill, I thank you for working those issues to ensure that we can maybe get in line for some emergency generators for our pump stations. Just one last thing, you never know what kind of correspondence you're going to get, even as mayor of Hot Springs. This afternoon I received a letter from a lady in Arizona that had a solution for our illegal immigration problem that's ongoing in the nation. That small towns like Hot Springs should take immigrants within. I'm not going to put that on the next council agenda. We've got, I think, some local problems like roads, housing, water, street repair, and so forth, airport rental cars, and so forth that we need to deal with. But it's interesting that, when you look even nationally, there's a lot of big problems and issues that we all have to face. I appreciate the council for stepping up to the plate and dealing with these things. And as we deal with them and do make the best decisions we can with the limited resources we have, I'm sure that we'll ensure the best is yet to come for our community. So I thank you for your involvement. This time, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded, we adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.